Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, honestly, enough is enough. Deport her ass. I'm sorry, but there's no other word, there's no other way, there's no other phrase to say this. So, the backlash now is now growing and growing and growing and growing. And so here is exactly what is now taking place. President Trump, several days ago, sat down with Fox Business, in particular, Larry Kudlow, one of their best hosts and also a member of Trump's first administration, his first term. And in that conversation, Trump rightly pointed out that his administration is going to continue to investigate and they will prosecute many key players involved in the massive welfare fraud scandal and scheme that has engulfed Minnesota. Up to $19 billion. And we've talked about it on this show, in which welfare money, school lunch programs, Medicaid, daycare programs were stolen and siphoned off and illegally appropriated by countless Democrats, especially many in the Somali community within Minneapolis. And so Trump then said, we're not bringing in migrants so they can come in here and scam and steal billions of dollars from the American taxpayer. And he said they basically are bringing Somalia into the United States. I don't want that. And I want the Somali migrants, the illegals, gone. We're going to arrest the fraudsters. And yes, we're going to look into Ilhan Omar. She is a fake. She committed immigration fraud. She committed marriage fraud. She has openly stated again and again and again that her first loyalty is to Somalia. And now it appears that much of this fraud occurred in her district, under her watch. She had at a bare minimum, if she didn't participate, which I believe she did, obviously, because of her massive growth in wealth, unexplained massive increase in wealth. We are talking tens and tens of millions of dollars that this shyster, this crook, this thief amassed in less than a year or two, with no explained reasons how this woman suddenly became worth over $30 million. And so Trump said, yeah, she's a fake congresswoman and we're going to investigate her as well. Now, she responded and she went to X, and her response to me says it all. It shows it's almost an admission of guilt on her part. But here is what she said. And the White House is up in arms. Conservatives are up in arms. And now the question is, what will the Democratic Party do? And will they finally disown some people did something? Listen now to what she said. This is what she said on X. Quote, so she listens to Trump, and this is her reply on X. Quote, the leader of the pedophile protection party is trying to deflect attention from his name being all over the Epstein files. At least in Somalia, they execute pedophiles, not elect them. I want to read it to you one more time. Okay, please listen carefully, because she does two things. One, she's defaming Trump, claiming that he's a pedophile. And number two, she's calling for his execution. There's no question. She is calling for his murder and his execution. And this is a freaking member of Congress? Like, are you kidding me? Quote, the leader of the pedophile protection party is trying to deflect attention from his name being all over the Epstein files. At least in Somalia, they execute pedophiles, not elect them. Now, let me state the obvious. Okay? Let me just state the obvious. This woman, this monster, and that's what she is, this Jew-hating, anti-white, Islamist, pro-Islamist bigot. Okay? This woman who, a supporter of Hamas, a supporter of Hezbollah, a supporter of Al-Qaeda, a woman who scoffed and mocked the victims of 9/11. This little witch, this fraudulent, thieving, lying little witch, because that's what she is, now is calling for the open murder and execution of the President of the United States? And with no evidence whatsoever, because there isn't any evidence, goes on about him protecting pedophiles, which is a lie, and basically all but saying he's a pedophile himself. And this is now one of the rising stars and one of the most prominent voices in the Democratic Party? You can't make this up. Where is the Secret Service? Where is the FBI? Where is the DOJ? It is illegal, as I pointed out on X. It is illegal to call for the murder or the execution or the assassination or any kind of violence against the sitting President of the United States. It's black letter law. I don't care, Congress doesn't give you immunity. I don't care who you are. I don't care whether you're in Congress, not in Congress, what your position is in terms of your professional status. You cannot threaten to murder and assassinate the president. That's number one. Number two, look at how things are degenerating so quickly, day by day, week by week. Now you have a prominent member of the Democrats, one of their leading, as I said, rising stars in the Democratic Party, openly calling not just for the murder of their political opponents, but the execution and the murder of the sitting President of the United States. Where is House Speaker Mike Johnson? Again, what does this guy do all day? I ask this question almost every day. What do they do up there all day? I'd love to know that. Now, he should immediately kick her off of every single committee right now. He should have her censured on the spot. On the spot. And then he should make a criminal referral to the Department of Justice, to the FBI, and to the Secret Service. And she should be arrested. And as they arrest her and they conduct a further investigation of how she lied to come into our country, how she married her brother, how she was married to someone else as she married her brother, which is bigamy on top of incest, and never mind her deep ties to one of the biggest fraud scandals in the history of the United States. Strip her of her citizenship, denaturalize her, as they say, and then send her ass back to Somalia. And notice, in Somalia, we execute our pedophiles as if Somalia is superior to the United States. No, really. As if, hey, in Somalia, you should look up to us. Hey, we're Somali pirates. We know how to do it, baby. If Somalia is so much better, if it's this great model for us to follow, then go back to Somalia. No, you don't want to go back to Somalia because you want to keep taking and stealing and stealing and taking and stealing. I've never met, I've met ingrates in my life, I'm telling you, but I've never met an ingrate like this woman. I'm sorry, this woman is a pig. You come here at the age of 12, just to set the record straight, at the age of 12, from a filthy refugee camp, By the way, your father was one of the most prominent, notorious members of a murderous Marxist regime. She's a red diaper baby, okay? An Islamo-communist baby. And her father literally butchered thousands of his political opponents. Talk about, his hands covered in blood. They lie. They put a false name so she and her father can get into the United States. So she comes in, even into this country, under false pretenses. And you become a member of Congress. The only country in the world where you can go from a refugee camp to a member of Congress. And you spit on this country every day? You mock this country every day? And now you're open. This is not Somalia. Okay. The White House now, by the way, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. All right. So the White House now has reacted with fire and fury to Ilhan Omar calling Trump a pedophile who now needs to be or deserves to be executed. So the White House issued a statement. This is what they've said. From Abigail Jackson. She's a White House spokeswoman, and this is what she's now telling the media. Quote, "It should deeply concern every single American that Congresswoman Omar is spreading such egregious lies and calling for the execution of President Trump, who has already survived 2 assassination attempts." She's not 100, she's 1,000% correct. So we're talking about a man that the Democrats and the left, let's be very frank, let's be very clear, wanted to murder. They tried to assassinate him not once, but twice. And in Butler, Pennsylvania, came within a millimeter of blowing his brains out. And now you've got one of their leading members of Congress not just calling Trump a pedophile, but on top of that, saying someone, he needs to get whacked. Someone needs to execute him. In Somalia, he would have been executed. So my question to you is this. 617-266-6868 is the number. Number one, is Ilhan Omar calling for the murder and execution, the assassination of the President of the United States? As the White House said, she is inciting violence. As the White House told the media, she is openly fomenting and inciting violence and the murder of the president. And I believe she's doing it because she's desperate. Because the walls are closing in. She now knows that she could be indicted, arrested, and maybe go to jail and be convicted for theft, for fraud, for theft, for stealing tens and tens of millions of dollars. And so now she's lashing out, and she's trying to do as much as she can to, A, paint herself as a victim of Trump, and furthermore, she wants to basically threaten the president and his people, saying, you come after me or you continue to come after me, and I'm telling you, wink, wink, we're going to have a 3rd assassination attempt. To me, I think it's obvious. Now, is she calling for the execution and the murder of the president? Number one. Number two, should Ilhan Omar be arrested? I say yes. What say you? And ultimately, should this woman be stripped of her citizenship, denaturalized, and deported back to Somalia? Have you had enough of Ilhan Omar? 617-266-6868. Now, listen to the chairman of the House Oversight Committee. He was on News Nation, and he was absolutely livid. And he's making the same point, similar point to what I'm making, saying, number one, she shouldn't say a word because we're investigating her. And she can't answer now the most basic questions about this massive explosion in wealth, this accumulated wealth, unexplained wealth that she and her husband amassed in a matter of several years. 2-3 years, they're now worth combined over $40 million. She's worth over $30 million herself. Listen now to Comer. Roll cut 8, Mike.
Of all the people to make any comments, Ilhan Omar is the one person in Congress who probably needs to keep her mouth shut. If she's going to tweet anything, she needs to explain to the American people how her net worth went from zero to $10 million in 1 year, and explain why the Biden Department of Justice was investigating her husband's financial activities over the course of that year where her net worth ballooned up. This is a simple question. It shouldn't take long to answer. Reporters are trying to ask her the questions, and she just walks by and won't answer questions. But she finds enough time to tweet something absurd like that and compare her beloved Somalia to the United States like it's a superior country. If she likes Somalia so much, she should go back to Somalia.
Yeah, well, yeah. And, I don't know, guys. Maybe it's time to play hardball. Maybe it's time to say, you love Somalia that much. I'll tell you what, we're going to pay for a one-way ticket to send you back to Somalia. And you're never coming back here again. But anyway, look, he's right, by the way. The Biden Department of Justice, her corruption was so egregious, so flagrant, so brazen, so reckless, so obvious, so frankly, so stupid. I mean, they're not even covering it. It's just so in your face that even they began an investigation into how much money she and her husband were making. Look, to state the obvious, these idiots put down that they owned a winery and that suddenly they got $5 million from this winery. And it turns out they never had a winery. They were never registered to have a winery. They never had a license for a winery. They never physically had a building that, even sold one bottle of wine. It was such an obvious shell company for them to launder money. All you've got to do is follow the money. And so the question is, was her husband, who claims to be a quote-unquote consultant, I'm putting this in quotes, was he steering donations to her and her campaign into a separate business account, i.e. they're embezzling money, campaign cash, which is one reason why you have a shell company, or were they embezzling some of the fraud? As she looked the other way, yeah, all of you, but you can make out like bandits, steal, 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 but I want to make sure I get a cut of the action. All you've got to do now is follow the money, and you've got both of them dead to rights. My question to you, have we now crossed another very dangerous line? Okay, Elon, some people sprayed something. Omar now in the hot seat. People are demanding that she be arrested, myself included, deported, myself included. At a bare minimum, she should be stripped of every committee assignment she has. There should be a censure vote, and have the Democrats on the record, vote whether they approve of this monster calling for the execution of President Trump. 617-266-6868. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Okay, I want to go to the phone lines. Before I do, listen now. This is Chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, again on News Nation, saying that if Ilhan Omar is smart, she would keep her mouth shut. Instead, she runs on X. She's publicly now fomenting and inciting violence against the president, President Trump. Meanwhile, when reporters ask her any questions about her involvement in that massive fraud scheme and how she and her husband became unimaginably wealthy so quickly, almost overnight, she will not speak a single word. Suddenly, she's mute. Suddenly, she's silent. She can't talk. Somebody zipped her mouth. So she's clearly stonewalling. She's clearly obstructing. She clearly doesn't want an investigation to continue. Comer now says that the walls are closing in. that they have been gathering depositions, transcribed interviews, and that everything now points to Ilhan Omar. The Somali fraud scheme leads back to her, to Waltz, to Fry, to Keith Ellison, the Attorney General. This is a massive Democratic Party scandal, and Minnesota was ground zero. Roll cut 8A, Mike.
I can tell you, with what we're investigating in Minnesota and the depositions and transcribed interviews that we're getting right now as we speak with the whistleblowers in the Minnesota state employees union that have been dealing with these social programs, it's really bad, the amount of Somali fraud in all the different welfare programs. So Ilhan Omar really needs to keep her mouth shut.
I find it.
Yeah, well, I think that's the reason why she's not keeping her mouth shut. Because she knows she may be going down. And so she's got to distract and deflect and basically now try to threaten the Trump administration. You continue to come after me and my fellow Somali pirates, you may be a dead man. You know, as they say, the third time is the charm. So there were 2 assassination attempts. The left failed, but maybe the third time they won't fail. So I want to ask you, Ilhan Omar, did she call for the murder and execution of Trump? Should she now be arrested? And is it time for Omar to finally be deported? Have you had enough? 617-266-6868. Lisa in Methuen. Thanks for holding, Lisa, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Great topic this morning. You know, I watched Bondi with the hearings and everything and how the Democrats got mad, especially Crockett got up and walked off. Jeff, let me ask you something. If you or me or any regular citizen, no matter what party you're in, makes a threat to the president, you would be arrested. Why are these people above the law? Where is Mikey? Why isn't, and I love President Trump, but why is he not calling him into the office and say, look, we need to do something about this? You know, they talk about coming together. There's nothing coming together when you're talking about killing our president, whether you agree with them or not. I am so fired up, Jeff, about this because there's a good group of them I don't care for, but especially her. With all the fraud that's been going on and the smugness that she has, that she's above everyone, Jeff, when are they going to do something? Let's go.
Lisa, that's the $64,000 question. I don't know what else these people have to do. I really don't. But you're right. She's very smug. She's really full of herself. She's arrogant because she thinks she's untouchable. You can see it. She's almost laughing in our face. She really, I'm being honest with you. I'm not trying to, rile everybody up. I'm just saying, look at her. She walks around like she owns Capitol Hill, like she owns this country. She thinks it's this attitude of impunity, that she can break our laws with utter impunity. She can do whatever she wants with impunity, and that she knows she'll get away with it because for the Democrats, she checks all the boxes. She's a woman, check. She's a woman of color from Somalia, check. An immigrant, check. A Muslim, check. Far left, check. I mean, this woman touches every single box. The only thing, maybe if she was lesbian or transgender. That's it. That's it, because she has a husband. So I guess she's heterosexual. But that's about it. Other than that, she checks for the Democrats, every single box. And so they steal right underneath our nose. This is not even a sophisticated theft. They threaten right underneath our nose. She will give speeches, and the media is there. Now, it is in Somali. She often gives speeches in Somali. Why? God forbid. Why would she, in America, why would she give a speech in English? I mean, this is just a sitting member of Congress. Why should you speak in our language? Okay, but let that go. And in Somali, and if you want, I can go over the quotes. It's all there. It's all been transcribed. She calls herself a daughter of Somalia. And that as long as she is in Congress, Somalia will always be represented. Somalia will always have a voice. And she says Somalia will always have a veto over anything the United States does that in any way, shape, or form impacts Somalia. And then she says, my allegiance, she openly says this, is to the country and the people and the president of Somalia. Now, I don't know what else to say. If this is not treason, I don't know what is. You know, this is loyalty to a foreign nation, to a foreign power, on top of the fact that she's, mocking the victims of 9/11, hates Jews, and never met a terrorist, an Islamic terrorist organization she didn't support or defend. You want my honest opinion? I'll give you my honest opinion. I think she's a mole for radical Islam. I think there's no question. And she is stupid. She's not very smart because you can easily catch her in her crimes. But if you're not willing to prosecute, you can be the biggest criminal in the world and the dumbest criminal in the world. But if law enforcement doesn't want to prosecute or arrest, or catch you, you're going to get away with it. And she's got this smirk on her face that she thinks she can get away with everything, up to now and including calling for the execution of the President of the United States. And by the way, she's now, one of the leading poster childs of the Democratic Party. We're not talking about some, fringe backbencher. She's up there with AOC. She's up there with the Squad. She's a member of the Squad. She's up there with Bernie, with Elizabeth Warren. I mean, they're talking, they want to make her a major cabinet secretary. They want her to run eventually for governor of Minnesota. I mean, they're grooming her to be a superstar in the Democratic Party. And to me, I'm like, so this is what our politics has degenerated into? So now the Democrats say, murder, kill him. The only thing missing, seriously, is she should have done what Kathy Griffin did. The severed head, the fake head of Trump, the bloodied severed head that was decapitated. The only thing missing was she should take a video of her, put it on X, of holding Trump's severed head. Okay, the text line is on fire, 617-266-6868 if you want to call into the show. You want to text 70470, 70470. This is from 981. Jeff, if they deport Ilhan Omar, I would also suggest they freeze all of her bank accounts and audit any ill-gotten financial gains. Oh, absolutely, 981. Look, I think her bank accounts, frankly, should be frozen now. I think there should be a thorough audit of all of her ill-gotten financial gains now. Now. Not when you deport her or if they deport her. Now. Because there's no question they have stolen. She and that shyster husband have stolen tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars. That there is no question. 617 of taxpayer money. It's not even like they looted a bank or a casino or whatever. No, it's our money. They stole our money. 617-266-6868. This is an absolutely brilliant text. I always say this, best audience in the business. Well, again, this is one of the reasons why. This is from 603. Jeff, first off, Ilhan Omar knows that this is a false accusation. She's just throwing crap against the wall to see if it'll stick. So I think this is a perfect example of what a low character this woman has. But secondly, and just as importantly, now listen to this because this is so true. This statement is coming from a woman whose own religion, Islam, has a deified prophet who took a child bride at the ripe age of 9 years old. Furthermore, because of that example, and because of the writings in their Quran, child brides of that age are taken by grown adult Muslim men all around the world, including Somalia. Not to mention what we know goes on with quote-unquote little boys in certain Islamic countries. You know what this is, Jeff? This is pure projection, plain and simple. I think Ilhan Omar needs to take the log out of her own eye before she tries to pick the speck out of ours, and let her do it on a flight back to Somalia. Bingo. Bingo. So, it's in the Quran. So according to Muslim teachings, according to the Muslim faith, Prophet Muhammad had multiple wives. He was, they believed in polygamy. And he had child brides. And he took one as young as 9 years old. Okay, 9 years old. Now, that's a fact. This is, oh my God, no, it's a fact. It's Encyclopedia Britannica. It's in the Quran. And this is why, to this day, in fact, many, many Muslim countries, Muslim men marrying underage girls, 9, 10, 11 years old, is very common. The the gang grooming rape scandal that you see sweeping across Britain. 250,000 British children, 250,000 were raped or sexually assaulted primarily by Pakistani Muslim men. They were either young girls or young boys. Many of them as young as 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. And according to them, they're like, well, what's the problem? That's part of our Islamic culture. So for Ilhan Omar to pretend that somehow, oh my God, there's a pedophile ring, a pedophile sex trafficking network. Oh my God. And Trump was covering it up. Right. Like you care. By the way, in Somalia, pedophilia is rampant. It's rampant. This notion, in Somalia, we execute them. Not so much. No. Sorry, Elon. Not so much. Okay? You're lying again. But to me, the deeper point is this. A, why are we bringing people like her into our country? Seriously. What does a woman like her add to our country? What, she's a net plus for us? This is so-called, diversity is our strength. What's the strength of bringing a woman like her and people like her into our country? Like what? We don't have enough people here that will steal taxpayer money and steal from our welfare system? We don't. We don't have enough people here that will commit fraud. We don't have enough people here who hate this country as it is. We have to bring in even more. She's bringing Somalia into the United States. The fraud, the illegality, the Sharia law, the anti-Semitism, the hatred, the tribal primitive politics, and now the violence, the open call for murder and execution of leaders, including the president himself, if you stand in their way or you try to hold them accountable for their crimes. You import the third world, you become the third world. Ilhan Omar needs to go. Enough is enough. Agree, disagree. Steve in the Freedom State, Florida. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
You this morning. Jeff, how are you this morning?
Very good. How are you, Steve?
Good. You're the number one radio man in America. I tell you that every time I call you. You're a rock star. You're unbelievable.
Thank you, Steve.
It's kind of simple. When Nick Shirley discovered all of those fraudulent leering centers, it's the exact same thing with this woman. They just create fake businesses. So they know how to do it. It's something they didn't think of it. It's probably been thought of by the Democrats, but They sure know how to implement it, and that's exactly what Ilhan Omar has done. She created a winery. It doesn't exist. It's exactly like the learning centers that don't exist. They do it to create monies for themselves, to divert money from the government into hands that can recirculate that money for the needs that they have. The thing that you need to know, and everybody should know, and we have to stop calling these Democrats Democrats. These Democrats are communists. They want to take over the country, turn the country inside out, and I fear we don't know the depths of the sickness that will come upon us in 2028 if the Democrats become president and own both houses in Congress. We don't know. We've never experienced it. We haven't seen the tip of the iceberg compared to what's going to happen. Wake up, everybody. These are communists. It's exactly like the 1950s with Alger Hitz when they infiltrated our government, top to bottom, inside out. The only difference was that then the Republicans had the guts to fight back. Today, we have cowards that are all part of it.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Steve, as I like to say, you're not 100, you're 1,000% correct. Steve, thank you very, very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. No, look, Ilhan Omar has aspirations not to become the state attorney general for Minnesota. Okay? In other words, then she would give real powerful legal protection to all of these Somali fraudsters and pirates. She ultimately wants to become Attorney General of the United States. She can't be president or vice president because she was, not born in the U.S. But she'd love to be, can you imagine her? She'd love to be another Merrick Garland. She'd be even worse than Merrick Garland. She wants to persecute and hunt down her enemies. And the best way to do it, she's openly said, I want to be AG. That's her ultimate ambition. And the Democrats know exactly what they're doing. This woman will arrest everybody and anybody. You think this woman will respect anything? So you have to understand, they're grooming her. That's why they're protecting her and they're coddling her. And she knows it. She's taken the measure of Pam Bondi. She's taken the measure of Kash Patel. She's taken she took the measure of Dan Bongino. She goes, are you serious? These guys are a joke. No one's going to touch me. So we'll see. But I'm hoping Trump gets personally involved in her case. I hope Trump gets personally involved, gives Comer a call, and says, all this information you're gathering on on Ilhan Omar, all of it, the theft, the fraud, the embezzlement, the shell companies, all of it. Because Steve is right. Just like they're running phony daycare centers and then, collecting government money and there's no kids. There's no daycare center. There's no nothing. Just like they were scamming the free lunch programs and the Medicaid programs and the welfare programs. That's what she and her husband were doing with that winery. So I hope Trump gets personally involved and then gives the order to either Bondi or Patel, no excuses, I want her in handcuffs. And go after it all. Why is the immigration fraud important? Because then you can strip her of her naturalization. You can strip her of her citizenship. If you commit fraud to become an American citizen, you deliberately change your name, as she did. You deliberately lie about your background, as she did. Never mind the marriage fraud. Never mind the marrying her brother. Never mind. You put all that together, strip her of her citizenship, and send her back to Somalia. They'll eat her alive down there. 617-266-6868. Mike in Chicago. Mike in Chicago, thanks for holding and welcome.
Jeff, I just want to tell you, I haven't talked to you for a long time because I've been having a hard time listening to your show because I've been getting so upset that I just started listening to comedy shows on television. But a lot of people have stolen my thunder, but I wanted to say about deporting her, I wouldn't deport her, Jeff. I would just leave her here because if they deport her, it's just going to make her stronger, and she's going to come back with a vengeance. I really believe that. I would have put her in jail yesterday for what she said. And what I don't understand is if I said something on X that they didn't like, they would take me down in a heartbeat. Why don't they take her down? I mean,
well, Mike, not that you would ever say this, okay? But just play along with me, okay? Let's just pretend. You go on X, and this is what you say. This is exactly what she said. Donald Trump is the leader of the pedophile protection party. And he's trying to deflect and distract from the fact that his name is all over the Epstein files. But you know what? In Somalia, they execute pedophiles. They don't elect them. Let's say you said that. Word for word what she said. I'm telling you, as sure as the sun rises, that the Secret Service would be kicking down your door, and rightly so, saying, dude, Mike, you just called for the president to be assassinated. You just called for him to be executed. Are you planning to execute him? Are you calling for him to be executed? Are you inciting an assassination attempt? And at a bare minimum, you would be interviewed. You would be aggressively interrogated. And if they noticed anything about you where you're showing some kind of serious aggressive intent or hostility, Mike, they would arrest you on the spot. They'd slap the handcuffs on. And they'd toss your ass in jail. Or if I did it, or if anybody else wrote what she wrote verbatim, Mike, I'm telling you, you'd be indicted. You'd be arrested. So my question is, why is she allowed to get away with it? And Mike, to be honest, and I'm going to give you the final word, I promise. It's not even, I get your point. Your point is, hey, look, aren't we all equal under the law? If it's wrong for me, it should be wrong for her. I go even one step further, and you may disagree with me. Because she's a sitting member of Congress, because she's a lawmaker, she's not just a quote-unquote ordinary person. She's not me, she's not you, she's not any of us. She has even a more special responsibility or obligation not to incite violence, not to call for the murder or execution or assassination of anyone, never mind, my God, the sitting president of the United States. Is this what we want now? No, sir, just stand back. Do we want a Congress? Because that's what they do in Somalia. That's what they do in third world hellholes. I'll execute you. No, I'll execute you. I'm going to get you, you SOB. I'll shoot you dead on the street. That's how they conduct themselves in third world countries. They call for the open assassination of their opponents and political leaders. And the more people talk about it, the more it ends up happening because you're normalizing violence. That's why politics in much of the world is a blood sport. People get murdered and assassinated all the time. I kill your side, you kill our side, we kill each other. That's 80% of the world. And that's what she's trying to import into this country. So my point is just this, Mike. I think a member of Congress or anybody, a governor, someone in the cabinet, somebody in a powerful political position, they have an extra special responsibility not to do what Ilhan Omar does. Mike, am I wrong?
1,000,000% right. If I said what she said on X or any other website, I would be making this call right now from Cook County Jail and not from my house. Seriously. I don't call them Democrats anymore. I call them Dumbo-crats, because I swear to God, Jeff, I can't believe I love listening to your show, and as you say, I love you in a non-sexual way. I just can't stand it anymore. One of the Republicans is going to get off their rear ends and start doing what we.
Well, they're going to have to. I think what's happening now, Mike, you're starting to see it, is the Democrats have become so radical and incendiary and so violence prone, whether it's their violent rhetoric, and this is very violent rhetoric, this is very dangerous rhetoric, or actual violence on the streets. The rioting in Minneapolis and, everything that we've been seeing, the opposition to ICE, the violent opposition to ICE. It's going to force the Republicans to have to respond. They're going to have no choice. So I think, look, we're heading now for a collision. And I think the Democrats are going to lose. The American people don't want this. This is primitive, tribal, third world politics. And say what you want about the American people. For all our flaws, we don't want to become a third world socialist hellhole. We don't. Because nobody wins, except for the few elites who profit off of it. But 99% of the public, nobody wins. Ask the people of New York now. They're swimming in garbage. They're still waiting for their snow to get cleaned up. Homeless people, over 20 of them now, have died freezing to death in the cold. I mean, New York is unraveling in front of our eyes. So, no, nobody wins. When the socialists take over, nobody wins. So, Mike, I think in the end, whether they have a spine, don't have a spine, have a stomach, don't have a stomach, the Dems are going to force them to have to act. Because you just can't keep burying your head in the sand. You can't. Either you take on Somalia, or Somalia takes you on. And Somalia now is taking us on. What the Democrats have done, let's be very clear, is they have now imported Somalia into the United States. And what you're seeing now is Somalia. And yeah, they threaten their presidents. They routinely threaten their presidents. They slaughter each other with impunity. It's one of the most violent, tribal, God-forsaken places on earth. And I'm sorry, you want to be violent? You want to be a jihadist? You want to murder political opponents? You want to mock 3,000 dead who are killed by Islamic terrorists? Some people did something. Go back to Somalia. I'm serious. That's right. Just go back to Somalia. Don't bring your ancient hatreds, your primitive hatreds into our country. This is a first world, civilized Western country. Okay? This is foreign to us. We don't want it. We don't need it. Get out. I think that needs to be our message now, not just to Omar, but to every third world migrant that Biden has let in. So it's very simple. You've never had it this good. It's time to tell the Somalis to their faces, you don't live like this in Mogadishu. In Mogadishu, you drag bodies through the streets and opponents hack each other up with machetes. So, and half your population is starving. Your biggest export are pirates. You hunt down ships on the sea, kill people, and steal and raid their stockpiles. That's what you do. That's what your country is known for. So we let you in. You took advantage. All you do is sit on welfare and take our money. And there's some exceptions, obviously. People want to make something of themselves. But for the most part, we're looking at numbers of 81, 85, 88% on welfare. And you're not even freaking grateful? You can't even give us a thank you? America, love it or leave it. Enough. You can't love it? Out. Out. Mike, thank you so much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Ilhan Omar. Some people did something. She's now calling for the execution, the murder of President Trump. My question to you, should she be arrested? Should she be deported? I don't know, at a bare minimum, do you think maybe she should be censured? I'm asking. Sorry if you laugh or you cry. I mean, at this point. So, I mean, do you think she should lose some committee positions? Let me ask you this. Not only should there be any consequences, do you think there will be any consequences? Or is she just going to keep on going and just, keep doing her thing? Because right now it seems no matter what this woman does, it's like she's bulletproof. It just nothing ever seems to happen. No one ever holds her accountable. Nothing ever seems to happen. Nothing ever seems to happen to her. I've never seen anything like this. 617-266-6868. And so that's what I was asking before the break. Is it because she's a far left Democrat who is tied to the squad? Is this what's giving her this sort of special political immunity from all of her outrageous, illegal, and criminal behavior? Or, let's put our cards on the table, is it because she's a militant Muslim? And they have even extra protections. And the charge of Islamophobia, nobody wants to be accused of that. And let's be honest, you go after a prominent Muslim like her, is there a fear of a backlash among radical militant Muslims? And so is this the ultimate reason why Republicans are afraid of Ilhan Omar? 617-266-6868. I'm just curious. What's your theory? Mark in Providence. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call. So just bear with me for one moment before I get to Ilhan Omar. First of all, right now they're debating the SAVE Act in Congress. It passed the Congress, going to the Senate. I think they should do a SAVE Act Part 2 for term limits to save the country from the corrupt politicians. So that would be one, have term limits. That should be voted in and make an amendment to the Constitution. Number two, for the serving in Congress or Senate, you should be subject to an audit every year, you and your family, for the pleasure of serving the people. That would eliminate a lot of this fraud that goes on, and fraud that's been going on for years. And if you don't want to be subject to an audit for the pleasure of serving in Congress, then you should not run for Congress. So I think that would solve a lot of problems. As far as Ilhan Omar is concerned, I just think that for Trump, Minnesota has been his Achilles heel. He didn't step in and quell the riots with George Floyd. He let that simmer and burn. He had his chance to put things out on this last one with the immigration, to bring in the National Guard or the Marines like he did in L.A. When they're doing immigration, the Marines went in. There was no problem. He nipped it in the bud. And now with Ilhan Omar, once again, he'll probably let her skate on this. He's so good on foreign policy. We can drop a nuclear bomb in Iran. We can abduct the president and bring him back from Venezuela, and we can kill the high-ranking officials on the tarmac in Iraq. But for some reason, just like all the other Republicans, he came out of the gate strong when he signed all those executive orders. When he first took office, I had high hopes, but now he just seems to be languishing like the Republicans do in Congress. And as far as his domestic policy, you can't be afraid of what people think or what the Americans think, because the majority are with you. And he just seems to be letting this get away and gone, all of a sudden gone soft. So that's my take on things.
Mark, let me ask you this. I think every single point, yes, 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 on every single point. Let me ask you this. Not that you would ever do it, but please, again, humor me. You and your wife set up a shell company. Let's call it a winery. Okay? Doesn't exist. It's just on paper. and you and your wife are stealing 30, 35, 40, 45, $50 million from school lunch programs, from Medicaid, from phony daycare centers that you guys have set up and run, welfare payments, and then you're funneling the money through this shell company, pretending like the mob, the way they buy restaurants or laundromats or whatever, just to launder their money. And now it's found out. Jeff Kuhner does an expose, whatever, the Boston Globe. I'm just making, stuff up. And suddenly now everybody knows Mark in Providence and his wife have been running a fake winery, a shell company, where they have been embezzling and stealing $30, $40, $50 million. What do you think is going to happen to Mark and his wife? And on top of that, Mark then goes on X after all of this and says it's time to execute the President of the United States. What do you think happens to Mark and his wife? Honestly, I'm just curious.
We go to jail for a long time, and just like Al Capone, they got him on, the IRS got him, the Treasury Department. So, yeah, you go away for a long time. There would be no, I just think that she has the ability. She's black and she's Muslim, and that's kind of like the Trump card, no pun intended, Trump card these days, that gets you out of jail free card.
Bingo. Bingo. Bingo, bingo, bingo. Thank you so much for that call, Mark. He nailed it. And I really, honestly, I want to commend him for his honesty. I would throw in woman only because it's the Democratic Party, okay? But it's primarily black and Muslim. For the Democrats, that's everything, okay? But if you can add in woman, well, that's the trifecta. That's the hat trick, as they say. So that's what she has going for her. She's in a deep blue state. She's politically protected in Minnesota. Schumer has her back. See, that's the one thing about Democrats. They're thick as thieves. And the communists, they always had that. From the very beginning, they always had that. So, Tim Walz has her back. Schumer has her back. Hakeem Jeffries has her back. AOC has her back. Elizabeth Warren has her back. It doesn't matter. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can also text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. Okay, my friends, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's aluminum siding and windows. So, which is the worst crime committed by Representative Ilhan Omar? Immigration fraud, financial fraud, or threatening the President of the United States? Whereas we have been talking about all morning, she now on X is calling for President Trump to be executed. So, A, immigration fraud, B, financial fraud, C, threatening the President of the United States. Which of these is the worst crime that you believe has been committed by some people did something? Ilhan Omar. So let me go through it again one more time. A, immigration fraud. B, financial fraud. C, threatening the President. I mean, they're all very serious. Don't get me wrong. But I think it's C. I don't vote in this poll, but if I was to vote in the poll, I would probably lean C. But, they stole a lot of money. There's no question. That's a lot of money that was stolen. And then you've got that immigration fraud, which, allowed her to come into this country. So it's not an easy poll question, but I would go with C, but that's me. You can vote on our webpage, WRKO.com/Kuhner, WRKO.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in National ER. You can also vote via X, and I'm always active on X. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, KUHNER. Julie in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Julie, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Julie.
A few things. Number one, R.I.P. to Judge Scalia. Very sad. That, and happy Valentine's Day. I love you, Jeff, in a non-sexual way. And and number three is I also would agree with you on C in regards to Ilhan Omar. And I know I said this last week, but I feel it needs repeating. And, these people, they have to assimilate. There is but the flag, the American flag. There is but one, language, the English language. You cannot be both. You need to decide. I mean, isn't there a question that you need to be asked when you come into this country? Don't you have to raise your right hand and say, I'm an American and I'm only an American? I mean, these people coming over here that are wearing these hijabs and everything, it's like, I want to say to them, you're in America now. You can take that thing off. But they expect us to, get kneeled before them and everything. And I have young kids in school, and they are being indoctrinated so badly that I have 3 boys in school right now, and the heterosexual white male is the most discriminated against group in America today.
Oh, no question. Julie, there's no question. You're absolutely right. And look, I just so that you know, it's the same. It's here in Minnesota. Sorry, it's here in Massachusetts. Forgive me. But also in Minnesota. It is now in Minnesota a legal requirement. Okay. In other words, it's passed by law that starting from kindergarten on, students have to be taught anti-Americanism. It's part of the curriculum to teach kids to hate their country, hate the founding, hate our history, hate our heritage, hate our civilization. And part of it is being driven by the likes of Ilhan Omar and Keith Ellison. Ellison is the first Muslim member of Congress. He's a black separatist. He's a radical black Islamo-communist. And Ilhan Omar. Now, Julie, look, this is a conversation as a country we've been avoiding for too long. There are some groups who don't want to assimilate. They don't. You're right. They should assimilate. We should insist that they assimilate. But not every group wants to assimilate. And I think it's very obvious, let's just take the Somalis, that the overwhelming majority do not. And let's be even more honest, okay? Again, let's put our cards on the table. Islam allows its adherents to lie against the infidel. It is permissible in Islam. According to the Muslim faith, you can lie. You can't lie to a fellow Muslim. That's a grave sin. That's a sin. But you can lie to a non-Muslim, to the so-called infidel. So Ilhan Omar was naturalized the way I was naturalized. And it was one of the happiest days of my life. I cried. I had tears of joy. I cried at my naturalization ceremony. So did my wife. She was beside me. We did it together. And I took my oath, and I take it to this day very seriously. I put my hand over my heart, and I pledged allegiance to the flag and to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. For me, that was a sacred oath that I took. For her, it's just another lie to get into the United States or to stay in the United States so then she can abuse and take advantage of our system. That's all. So, and by the way, she loves the hijab. And many Muslim women do. But Ilhan Omar in particular always wears it because she loves it. Why? Because it's a sign of submission to Allah. It's a sign that they will not assimilate, that they will not integrate. And so when you listen to her speeches, and she's open about this, and by the way, many Muslims are very open about this. Anytime a Muslim, look, Mamdani said it. The mission of Islam, the mission of the Prophet Muhammad, is to have Islam create a world Muslim empire, a caliphate. In other words, we are compelled to be immigrants, to go to every corner of the world, to immigrate, and then to turn every country into a Muslim country. So as far as Mamdani and Ilhan Omar are concerned, to them, they're trailblazers. They're like Christopher Columbus. I'm not kidding. But for Islam, they're going into uncharted, unconquered territory. And they believe, this is fundamental to Islam, when you set foot on another country's soil, that inch of soil belongs to you and to Islam. That's why it doesn't matter wherever they go. If 10 of them are there, they build a mosque. They build a mosque. And to their credit, the Saudis, the Pakistanis, the Gulf sheiks, they fund every mosque in the world. It doesn't matter where. It could have 2 people, but that mosque is going to get built. Because once that mosque is erected and built, it's theirs. They claim it, it's theirs. It's now part of the caliphate. So what people have to understand is that Muslims are the truest globalists on the planet. Their allegiance is never to their country, ever. It is to Islam and Allah, to this caliphate. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, there's a brilliant text that I got. By the way, you can text the Kuhner Man, 70470. A brilliant text that I got whereby somebody reminded me of a story that I had covered several years ago, which is true, under the Biden regime. And I'm sure this may touch a chord with many of you. Do you remember there were 2 incidents, not one but 2? Both of them involving veterans, but one was an elderly veteran. I believe he was in his 60s. I don't know if 70s, 60s. I vaguely don't remember the specific details. But if you remember, they made some kind of a loose threat against Biden. Okay, they were both veterans. They were believers in the Second Amendment. They both had, concealed to carry. They both had guns at home, legal gun owners. And nothing like what Ilhan Omar did. No open, naked call for executing the president. Just some kind of, vague, loose threat about Biden. And they hit both homes with a freaking SWAT team. They went in, guns blazing, tear gas. I mean, the whole kit and caboodle, the whole 9 yards, as they say. And both of them were shot. They were shot. You remember that? Now, and the reason why they said, well, we went in heavy. And, you had to shoot the guy. You had to, shoot him and massacre him in their own home. And remember what the excuse was. Threatening the president of the United States is illegal. And because it's illegal, it's a crime. And so they had every right to go in there guns blazing. So when you came anywhere near a threat to Joey, then when the Democrats are in power, they drop the hammer, baby. Forget getting arrested. They shoot you and they kill you. Okay, they shoot you. They're even afraid to investigate her. They're even afraid to Johnson is even afraid, Mini Mike, House Speaker Mike Johnson is afraid to even hold a censure vote. I'm not kidding. You've got conservatives flooding his office. Could you please at least censure her? And let the Democrats go on record that they're going to support her again? Meaning they're openly in favor of now calling for executing the president? Could you at least censure her? Could you try? So they go in guns blazing and they shoot you dead for loosely threatening the president. Our side, they won't even censure you for calling for the execution and murder of the president. So here it is, in a nutshell. The Democrats smash mouth football. Our side, I'd say badminton, but even badminton is too aggressive for them. Even badminton's too much of a contact sport for most people on our side. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Tom in Framingham. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Great show today.
Thank you, Tom.
By the way. I want to talk about something that's fundamental to all this. I'll say to you that there's no way that a high-profile Democrat or Democrat politician can be arrested or even be put through the system or get convicted in a blue state or the District of Columbia. There's no way. One of the reasons there is no way is because the U.S. attorneys in those areas they really weren't appointed by Trump. They were appointed by the blue slip. And also the judges in those areas, again, even if they're Trump appointees, he doesn't really get to appoint them. They're appointed by the blue slip. They have to meet the approval of the two senators from that state. So, and the Justice Department itself is still infiltrated with lefties. So there's no way that any of these people can ever, people talk about her getting deported. I was astounded when I heard Tom Homan about a month and a half ago say, well, I'm going to have to look into the charges that she married her brother to get him into this country. People have known about this for 2 years. And you keep hearing these, yes, she married her brother to get him into the country. Okay, is she ever going to get charged with immigration fraud? It seems like, it seems like it's too complicated for them to actually get anything done with it. And Holman coming out and saying that he's going to have to start looking into it that frequently. I mean, that was astounding to me. The other thing is a judge in Michigan. She's actually the chief justice in the district court over there in Detroit. She was another Trump appointee. Do you know she just made a ruling the other day that he couldn't, that they couldn't actually get voter roll data from Michigan. In other words, she ruled against the federal government even getting voter roll data. Now, getting that voter roll data is fundamental to getting to scratching dead people and illegal aliens off the voter rolls.
Oh, you're dead on. Well, that's why we need the SAVE Act. I mean, that's one of the key provisions in the SAVE Act. It would force every state to take non-citizens, illegal aliens off dead people off the voting rolls. And that's why the Democrats are fighting it tooth and nail. Anyway, we'll see what's going to happen on that front. But no, Tom, look, I want to go back to something that you said. You're completely right. The judges now are essentially in the tank. You have the justice system in the tank. You have these U.S. attorneys now that are in the tank. But to me, what's even more troubling is what you're seeing on the juries themselves. You take any case in a Washington, D.C. district court, or in Manhattan, or in Minneapolis, or in many of these districts, it doesn't matter. If it's a Democrat that's involved, they could be guilty as sin, and everybody knows they're guilty, and they'll still get them off. What they call jury nullification. In other words, the jury now is so rabid, so politicized, so partisan, that they won't look at the evidence of a case objectively, which is what you're supposed to do as a juror. As a juror, you're specifically instructed to be as objective as possible, to put your politics aside, even some, your religious beliefs, even to some extent, aside. So, in other words, anything that can unduly influence you from looking at the evidence and only the evidence, whether someone is guilty or not guilty. That's your job as a juror. Remember, someone's either life or freedom hangs in the balance. Whatever, you go to prison, that's many years off someone's life. Or if it's a death penalty case, it's life itself is hanging in the balance. So what you're told specifically, it's a great responsibility. You have to adhere and examine the evidence and only the evidence. So no matter who that person is, if that person did it, you have to convict. If you believe that person didn't or there's reasonable doubt, then you have to vote to acquit. What's happening now, and I'm going to get to this a little bit later, there's something happening in our population, especially among the left. It's a phenomenon now that has many people scratching their heads, and it goes beyond just what we're talking about. But in terms of juries, they will not convict a Democrat. They could have him on tape saying, I did it, and they still won't convict him. And for everyone to understand, and that's why I often let him come on the show, I want you to think of a jury consisting of Bills in Sudbury. That's why people always say to me, well, Jeff, why do you have him on? That's the mind of a typical Democrat today, of a rabid, radical, fanatical Democrat. You think a Bill in Sudbury cares about the evidence? You think a Bill in Sudbury cares about the facts, the truth, the law? No. You put him in a jury. Democrat, innocent. Republican, guilty. Period. Period. And if he could go death penalty on MAGA, he'll go death penalty on anybody who's MAGA. You look at him, you go, this is not capital, this doesn't warrant the electric chair. Kill him, give him the electric chair. But if it's a Democrat, it doesn't matter. If Hitler was a Democrat, since they love to use fascism and Hitler, if Hitler was a Democrat and they're on the jury, or in that case, it was a judge case, it was a judge trial. But my point is, if there was a jury trial of Hitler and he's a Democrat, Bill in Sudbury would acquit Hitler. Period. There's no discussion. You can show gas ovens till the cows come home, bodies piling up in Auschwitz, order after order after order after order. It doesn't matter. Not guilty. Period. And that's what you're starting to see now, increasingly, juries in blue areas, blue districts, all across the country. And what that means is it's going to be very hard to have a free, fair, impartial justice system. And I could tell it's impacting people because you got many now in the Justice Department saying, well, it's going to be tried in Minnesota. Well, it's going to be tried in Washington, D.C. Well, it's going to be tried in Manhattan. So there's no point in other words, there's no point in indicting Letitia James. Well, why? Because she's going to be tried in Manhattan. So they're going to quit, no matter how much mountains of evidence you have. Now, that's very corrosive and destructive to our justice system. But that's the reality. That's what these moonbats have now become. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Okay, 8 o'clock. You know what that means. Caller of the week, Kuhner's Call Log.
It's time for Kuhner's Call Log, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks for holding, Paul.
Today, I'm going to have to disagree with you, buddy. My biggest bill that I have in my life is the United States government. They take and take and take, and you can't get ahead. And that's the reality. I don't care what gas prices are. I don't care what rent prices are. Get out of my pocket. I want to share this with you. I do plowing for the job that I work at, property management, okay? I had 107 hours of overtime with all these storms that we had. The government took almost $2,000 from my paycheck.
That's disgusting.
And now, my average day life, Jeff, I live conservatively. I don't overspend. I try to conserve, save my money. I have a family to take care of, right? A wife, kids. And the government took $2,000 from me in one swipe. Jeff, I make $1,700 every 2 weeks. You took a paycheck from me. And what did you do to deserve that paycheck? Nothing. What was my heat bill this last period? It was $500. I keep my heat on at 60. I'm freezing. My family's freezing.
And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's Call Log.
Please, don't be a stranger. Call again. Best audience in the business. I mean, it's just, really, honestly, people, I get compliments about this show all the time. And so many times it's best callers, Jeff. Love listening to the callers. Love it when you read their texts on air. And again, I just want to thank all of you because you really make this show very, very special. 617-266-6868. Okay. Let me put this, let me ask all of you. It's all on the table today. Ilhan Omar calling now for the execution of President Trump. She says he's basically, I can read you the message again, but she came out and said that he's the leader of the Pedophile Protection Party. His name is all over the Epstein files. That's why he has to deflect and distract by investigating her and the Somali community in Minneapolis for rampant multi-billion-dollar welfare fraud. And she said, say what you want, in Somalia, there we execute pedophiles. We don't elect them. And everyone said, it seems to me, and the White House certainly came out and said, this is a clear call for the assassination, murder, execution of the President of the United States. And in the wake now of 2 attempted assassinations, Butler, Pennsylvania, and the other one at that golf course in Florida, the White House says this is beyond dangerous, beyond reckless, beyond irresponsible. That she is openly inciting violence and murder, and that Democrats now, at a bare minimum, need to condemn what Ilhan Omar said. Not one has condemned it. Not one. Because let's be honest, I think deep down in their heart of hearts, they hope that, they were hoping for Butler to succeed. Their reaction was obvious on social media. You saw how they cheered on the death of Charlie Kirk and the near assassination of Trump. And I think deep down, and their logic and their rhetoric is inevitable. Okay? You look at their logic and their rhetoric. The natural culmination is, if he's Hitler, as they claim, if this is the Fourth Reich, as they claim, if he's turning this country into a fascist authoritarian, regime, well, what you're really saying is, if he's Hitler, off him. Somebody needs to take him out. And not only is she not being condemned, Ilhan Omar now is being lionized. She's being celebrated as one of the leaders of the resistance, la résistance. So my question to you, should she be arrested, which it is a crime, to call for the murder or to threaten the life of the President of the United States? Should she be arrested? Should she be deported? And will anything happen to some people said something? 617-266-6868 is the number. Jeff in Chelsea. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Jeff, I agree with you 1,000%. Trump should get the illegals out of this country, but you see, these incidents has a root. Look at the Reagan amnesty and look at the Mario boat lift of Cuba. 2 events that sunk this country. The amnesty by Ronald Reagan, paved the way for the demographic change in America that you see today. And Jimmy Carter with the Mario boat lift did the same thing. Once you switch out a demography of an area, pushing the locals out, and the foreigners in, your country is done. It's just that simple. Normie didn't care when these two events happened. Normie doesn't listen to your show. Normie doesn't listen to any conservative radio. Normie listens to the 6 o'clock and the 11 o'clock news. He's having a barbecue with his family. All that Normie cares about is keeping the riffraff out of his community. That's it. Normie doesn't care. Normie's making money. Normie has a hack job. And Normie croaked this country. Normie knows what he's doing. It's me, myself, and I. It's my retirement. Now that demographic age group is pretty much gone. Now we're dealing with the consequences of what should have been taken care of when it was in the embryonic stage. Now we're dealing with it in the teenager stage. It's too late.
Well, Jeff, let me ask you this, because, look, you're right. You know, you look at this state, you look at Minnesota, you look at other states like that, these deep, California, obviously, these very deep, deep blue states. You're right. The Democrats there have become very radical, communists, Marxists, very far left, rabid, incorrigible, irrational. I think that's the key word. Irrational, fanatical, rabid. The problem is, and this is why this is an 80-20 issue for us nationally, to start calling for political murder, to openly now defend, and that's what they're doing. They're openly defending murderers, rapists, child molesters, and drug traffickers. That's what they've been doing now in Minneapolis. That's the illegal aliens that they're protecting are the worst of the worst. These are violent scum. And yet they're protecting them. They're defending them. This does not play well in most of the country because most of the country is normal. Most of the country is not Ilhan Omar. They're not AOC. They're not Catherine Clark. They're not Bernie Sanders. So this is the problem that the Democrats have. That's why I said, what was even a couple days ago, I said, if they're already saying this now, because they're getting more rabid by the day, it's like a progression. So if you're saying this now, what are you going to be saying in September and October, where we're in the midst of the midterm elections? It's like, really, what are they going to say? Pick up a machete and start going, hack 'em, hack 'em, hack 'em? A la Rwanda? Like, I mean, how crazy are these people going to get? And so that's why, Jeff, they're making a very big mistake. The Democrats are making a big mistake. They're making Ilhan Omar and Mamdani the two poster children of their party. And you don't get more extreme, more polarizing, more radical, frankly, more crazy than these two. So if you want two Islamo-communists to be the face of the Democratic Party, be my guest. Because if the Republicans run just a semi-competent campaign and just use Mamdani's words and Ilhan Omar's words and say, this is what the Democratic Party now stands for. Okay, to Ilhan Omar or not to Ilhan Omar? That is now the question. Should we arrest and deport her ass? I say, hell yes. What are we waiting for? What say you? 617-266-6868 is the number. And really, in all seriousness, what are the Republicans so afraid of? That's what I just can't wrap my mind around this. Anyway, what say you? I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. And in general, is this a symptom of our unwillingness as a country to confront the Islamist threat and to stand up to radical, out of control Marxist Democrats? Is this now a failure of nerve on the part of the Republican Party and on the part of the Trump administration? 617. You would think, the one thing you don't play with after what happened in Butler, and then, the two attempted assassination attempts, Butler and then the golf club and the golf course in Florida, is you don't play around when they start threatening to execute the president. But apparently, I don't know, maybe Pam Bondi's off for the long weekend. Maybe it's President's Day. I don't know, maybe she was at the hair salon when Ilhan Omar wrote her comments on X. I don't know, but something is not right here. At a bare minimum, the Secret Service should be paying Ilhan Omar a visit. Am I wrong? Sal in Merrimack. Thanks for holding, Sal, and welcome.
Where is the Secret Service? She should be in handcuffs. They should go down to the Capitol and put her in handcuffs. This is ridiculous.
Well, Sal, let me ask you, where is the Secret Service? What I mean is, where's the outrage? What? Sal, let me ask you, are we becoming numb to this? In other words, that the Democrats, behaving badly, that they keep making so many threats and they keep using such violent rhetoric, and never mind the rioting and the looting and everything else that's been going on in the country. But I'm talking about the, Democrat members of Congress, leading Democrat leaders, prominent Democrat leaders. Are we just getting numb? Oh, another day and another threat to murder Trump. Oh, another day and another call for violence. Are we just getting numb to this? Or do you think they're genuinely afraid to make a move on some people did something? What do you think explains all of this, Sal?
Normies out there who aren't following any of this stuff, and I think if the normies knew it was going on and they rose up, I think the Democrats would be a little more afraid. But there's too many people that are, I work in an office where I don't think anyone even watches the news, for God's sakes. I think if you had these normies kind of pay attention to what's going on in the world and they were like, what the hell's going on? I think you'd see more action, but as long as they have those people on their side, I think this is going to go on.
Sal, this is coming from the White House. Okay, this is not Jeff Kuhner. This is straight from Trump's inner circle. They're saying now, if the Democrats continue with this rhetoric, they're saying, I'm telling you, there's going to be a third assassination attempt. They're saying this is going to lead to political violence against the president. When it's not just now that you're demonizing him, vilifying him, calling him Hitler and a tyrant and a dictator and on, but now you're getting into, hey, in other countries, people like him are executed. Wink, wink. They're saying this is deliberate on her part. It is the mother of all dog whistles. And the message is clear. We missed him in Butler. Don't miss him again. Is the White House wrong on this, Sal?
But the White House, I know the people from the White House listen. Get Trump on TV and have him plead to the American people of what's going on within the Democrat Party and lay everything out. I think you got to do a couple of fireside chats to the American people so they can know what's going on instead of being out of touch. Because if he starts doing that, I think people will start paying attention.
I agree. And I think it's going to turn people's stomach. If he addresses the nation and says, this is what she wrote in response to my criticisms of the very real fraud, billions and billions of dollars of fraud, just from the Somali community alone that is now taking place in Minnesota. And her response is, I need to be executed. Are you okay with this? I think the country would rally to him. Again, this would be an 80-20 issue. We would smash them. Sal, thank you so much for that call. 617-266-6868. Raymond in Arlington. Thanks for holding, Raymond, and welcome.
Jeff, I love you in a non-sexual way.
Thank you, Raymond. Raymond, what do you make of this, my friend?
I try not to. I guess you got to really look at it, right? I mean, like you say, it's constant. We're always getting threatened. Nobody's ever doing anything, though. At some point, I think everybody really needs to just step it up, in a sense. This guy's already been shot at. That's a problem. Are they going to try again? Probably. And I think they should just go and arrest her and start, rip everything from her that she gained.
Oh, Raymond, I'm up against the break. Please hang on. I'm going to come right back to you. Okay, let's go right back to Raymond in Arlington. Raymond, you were making the point, almost like throwing your hands up in despair. What is it going to take for Republicans to finally move against Ilhan Omar? She should be arrested. And basically you were saying, take everything that she's stolen, and then we got cut off. So please, Raymond, pick up where you left off.
I believe that everything that you have obtained in this country, you really need to look into that and just remove it from their power. Take all their power. Make an example out of somebody. And I believe if all this is already behind her, right, just grab her. She's easy pickings. I don't know why nobody's just going in there and saying, okay, you've done this wrong, you've done that wrong. You and I, forget it. We'd be locked up and buried under a jail. But for other people, I don't know. We really need to start moving in on something, make an example, or forget about it. It's over. One or the other.
Oh, Raymond, you're dead on. Raymond, look, let's leave aside, the immigration fraud, the marriage fraud, the stealing, the welfare fraud, the embezzling, all this. Just leave it. Let it all, as I like to say, let it go. Just let it all go. A member of Congress openly, repeatedly, and both in English and in a foreign language, says that their loyalty is to a foreign country, the foreign country they allegedly fled, as a refugee, to come to the United States, and that now as a member of Congress, they want everybody to know they will put the interest, it doesn't have to be Somalia, it could be any foreign country, that they will put that foreign country first. Raymond, am I missing something? How is that not treason? And how does that person still have a job in Congress? I mean, Raymond, I'm looking at this and I'm like, am I crazy? Am I, this woman is repeatedly saying her loyalty is to Somalia. I thought to be an American, member of Congress, your loyalty has to be to America, to the Constitution, to our country, to our nation, to our people, not to some foreign power, not to some foreign nation, not to some foreign government. Raymond, am I wrong?
And it's, I hate to say it, it's Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney. Under their leadership, nobody was allowed to come into this country and do the silly things they're allowed to today. I mean, it is what it is. It has all changed. We have people from other countries in Congress now. That would have never happened back in the day. These wars, all this stuff. We really need two strong pillars again to say enough is enough. Trump, you really need to step it up. President Trump. And I don't know. I don't know anymore. I don't think anybody does, and that's the problem. Everybody's just going to sit back and take it. Take the old pineapple. That's it. That's the way it works.
Raymond, thank you very much for that call. By the way, he's right. Just to be from another country, say you're born from another country and you came to the United States, that was a big thing before, if you're a member of Congress. In other words, for you to overcome people's suspicions and, fears that, hey, is your true allegiance to the United States? I'm not talking about your parents coming from another country or your grandparents. I'm talking about you individually. You've left that loyalty to your country behind? Really? Are you sure? And so generally the few people that would run for Congress who were, themselves an immigrant who came from another country, they tended to be like super patriots. Like, no, hey, I'm not just an American. I'm an ultra-American. Like, I want you to know, hey, my loyalty is, it's only to the United States and no other country. And I renounce my country and I renounce the nation I came from. And, and on and on. In other words, to let people know, like, look, I'm not going to sell us out to the country of my birth or the country I was, born and raised in. Now you're seeing more and more, not just people born in another country who become members of Congress, but openly saying, well, I have dual loyalty, or in Ilhan Omar's case, I have one loyalty, to Somalia, not to the United States. And everybody's like, oh, okay, well, hey, hey, sure. She actually admitted in a speech that she's essentially a spy, a mole for the Somali government. With the president of Somalia 6 feet away from her, clapping and cheering and basically saying, he's my president. This is the man that his orders, his authority is the one that I respect, that I ultimately abide by and adhere to. And I'm thinking, how is this woman not kicked out of Congress? On the spot. On the spot. And the thing that says it all is that her constituents are mostly Somalis, and they love her for it. There's no controversy back in her district. No, they're like, well, that's what we expect, of course. Yeah, of course, her loyalty is to Somalia. Of course it is. Out. Every single one of you. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Mike in Wichenden. Thanks for holding, Mike, and welcome.
Jeff, I got a couple of things I want to tell you that American people do not understand what Islam has in store for it. You can go to Brigitte Gabriel and get information from her about CARE and how corrupt and how their plan is to overthrow the United States. You can go to Sam Shimon on YouTube and listen to him talk about how corrupt and how the holes and contradictions that are in the Quran. But if you mention any of that to a Muslim, okay, they will tell you right on X, they tell you, we will rip your tongue out, we will slice your throat, okay, you will go into your home, kick your front door in, you will bend the knee to Islam, or we will kill you. And now you've got thousands upon thousands in Dearborn, Michigan, at their rallies screeching repeatedly, death to America. I don't know what more of a wake-up call these people need in America, especially when you observe on TV. You go on there and you watch because he has a direct pipeline into the great Persian people of Iran. They've already burned 150 mosques, and right now they just started another second round of mosque burning, okay, to throw the yoke of Islam, off of their neck after 47 years. Americans do not understand what's in store for them. And my big fear with this whole thing, the lack of fear that these Muslims have to be held to account after Pam Bondi, what has she done really when you go from Obama, who Chelsea Gabbard committed treason, all the way back to 2020, all the way forward to Minneapolis, to the sedition and all the crimes, federal crimes, not one high-profile arrest. And to me, okay, America, you better wake the hell up because your days are numbered.
Mike, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, I know I mentioned it earlier. Now, we're not talking the Middle East. I'm not talking Africa, okay, which is, Nigeria. Christians are being slaughtered by Muslim extremists every day. It's a bloodbath down there, okay? I'm not talking that. I'm talking Great Britain. Britain, okay? The home of the Magna Carta, the mother of Parliament, in many ways, our mother country before we seceded. Okay, this is Great Britain. Muslim immigrant men, mostly from Pakistan, as Obama would say, engaged in over a decade the deliberate raping of young women, young girls, and young boys. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very quick, as the lines are full. Obviously, I want to go back to the phone lines. But to answer Mike's, because Mike made the point, and I thought he made a very good point, that we have no idea what it's like to live under Islamic rule, or when a portion of your population begins to become infected by radical Islamists. And so I said, well, okay, let's not talk Africa, Middle East. Let's go to Great Britain. Now, as you know, a lot of third world migrants have been pouring into Britain over the last 40 years. And Britain's one of their wealthiest men now. He is the co-owner of Manchester United, one of their most prominent, well-known soccer clubs. Anyway, he's a big billionaire in Britain, has now come out and said Britain is being colonized by these migrants, that there's no question. Britain has been demographically, culturally, politically, legally transformed over the last 35 to 40 years. One of the biggest stories in the world, is that there were these grooming gangs, Muslim men, mostly from Pakistan. Okay, not exclusively, some were from Afghanistan, other parts, but they were Muslim men who poured into the borders of Great Britain. And what they did is they did there what they do all over the world, which is, and by the way, even our own troops had to endure it. They were at the bases in Afghanistan. They were partnering with Afghanistan troops and soldiers, and they said literally on base, these Afghan soldiers would bring 8, 9, 10-year-old, usually boys. And they were, forgive me, sodomizing the boys. Forgive me. They were having sex with the boys, forcibly. And our soldiers had to just put up with it. And their superiors said, well, that's just a cultural thing down here. Just don't, leave it alone. And it was driving our men nuts. And so at night, because, they share a barracks together, they said, we're trying to sleep, and you got these animals who are supposed to be our allies, and they've got 8, 9, 10-year-old boys who we could hear are crying and screaming because they're being sexually violated by these Afghan soldiers. Okay? So even our own men in the military testified to this and said they hated it. They couldn't stand it. They found it repulsive. Now, on a much bigger scale, this is what happened in Great Britain. Over a period of 10 years, these grooming gangs, and I don't just mean in London, this is what's shocking, in small towns, mid-sized towns, all across England, southern England, northern England, no part of that country was spared. They gang raped and sexually assaulted over 250,000 British children, either young girls, and when I mean young, I'm talking 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, and young boys, same age group. Now, the shocking thing is not just that it happened, but that local police authorities were told. They were repeatedly asked by the parents or even the victims themselves to arrest these men, and they all deliberately turned a blind eye in the name of political correctness, DEI, and so-called multiculturalism. They refused to make a single arrest. Children, and by the way, the majority of the victims were white British children. So you had Muslim men, foreign Muslim men, raping, violating, assaulting, forgive me, sodomizing young girls and boys, British white girls and boys. And the local police did nothing. In fact, they deliberately covered it up. Now, it gets even worse. The media was told about it. And there were mountains and mountains of irrefutable evidence, pictures, videotapes, eyewitness testimony victim after victim after victim after victim. And they buried the story. They buried it. They buried it. They refused to report on it. To this day, most of the media in Britain still refuses to report on it. Now, what does this have to do with us, Islam, Ilhan Omar? The reason why British law enforcement and the British political and media class have turned a blind eye to one of the greatest rape scandals and child abuse, child molestation, pedophilia scandals. And you know how evil I think Jeffrey Epstein was. The Epstein pedophile ring was nothing compared to what happened in Britain. It's one of the biggest sex abuse, pedophilia scandals in human history. And yet the political media class has tried to bury it. Why? Why? One, and they openly say this, there are so many Muslims now in Britain that it will tear the fabric of British society apart. It will destroy multiculturalism, and it will so enrage the native British population that they fear a potential civil war or out-and-out social conflict and chaos. So they're saying, for the public good, we don't want the public to know the full extent or even know what happened over a 10-year period, and that nobody went to jail. Nobody. But there's a second reason. And it's even much more troubling than the first reason. Because these Muslim men told the local police, they have sent notes to journalists, media outlets, and politicians. You send any of us to jail, it's a fatwa on your head. You come after us, you're going to have yourself a jihad. You're going to have yourself a holy war. You think we're going to allow you to put thousands of us in prison and to smear and discredit the very name of Islam and Allah? You're going to have yourself a holy war. And so they are blackmailing and intimidating British society, the British elites, to back down in the face of open mass child sex abuse, pedophilia, and rape. Now, that's a fact. And by the way, just so that you know, it's happened in the Netherlands, what used to be called Holland, in Belgium, in Denmark, in Norway, in Sweden, in Sweden, in France, in Germany, in Italy. And the reaction by the elites has been the same. So don't tell me that Islam is a religion of peace, because it's a lie. And don't tell me that diversity is our strength, because it isn't. Diversity divides, diversity destroys. Unity is our strength. So the question is, should we be importing, that many militant radical Muslims and people from foreign cultures that don't share our values? Whether it be how you treat women, how you look at Jews, how you look at Christians, and whether having sex with children is kosher or not kosher. Or fraud. Look, you've had Somali expert after Somali expert. They've come out to their credit saying, you don't understand. In Somalia, it's such a tribal society. It's almost like a warfare mentality. You beggar your neighbor, you beggar your family member, you beggar the government. In other words, the attitude is take and take, steal and steal, because literally life is about survival of the fittest. So they look at us and say, like, what is wrong with you? You should all be scamming the system. Like, why aren't you stealing welfare benefits? If it's there to be stolen, it's that pirate mentality. If it's there to be stolen, steal it. Like, you're insane not to steal it. And nobody will get in your way because we won't let them get in our way. Now, what Ilhan Omar has figured out is all she has to do is play the race card or play the religion card, the Muslim card. Boo. Boo. That's it. Just go boo. And every single guilt-ridden white liberal, oh, okay, no, okay, keep stealing. Well, now, because Trump is serious about her getting arrested, Trump is serious. He's been telling people, no, I want her investigated. So he's got the IRS breathing down her neck. He's got Kuhner now. He's given orders to Kuhner. You're going to investigate this Somali fraud. And I want to know, does this lead back to Omar? So she now senses. There's reports now everywhere. She and her husband have swindled over $40 million. There's no getting around this. And Trump has openly said, I want an investigation into how she came into our country, the immigration fraud that she committed, and the marriage fraud and the marriage to her brother. She may be gone. Okay, this is a very real possibility. For the first time, she's actually feeling threatened. So what's her reaction? Execute him. That's the Somali way. Execute him. Now, she came as close as possible to putting a fatwa on Trump's head. The more of her kind you bring in, the radical Islamists, the radical Islamo-communists, like Mamdani. Mamdani is a wild man. He can't hold back his contempt and hatred for the Jews. He can't hold back his contempt and hatred for the American people, for America, for the Constitution. This guy comes out and says that New York will remain a sanctuary city no matter what. Why? Because he's following the Prophet Muhammad, forgive me. He's following Allah and the Prophet Muhammad. His words, not mine. He said it is written in the Quran. No one is a stranger, and you must welcome all strangers, no matter where they come from, especially from Muslim lands. So he's telling us, my allegiance is to Islam. It's not to America. It's not to the Constitution. It's not even to the laws of the United States. So, and we want to bring more of these kind of people in? No. And I think the fear is people are now running away from Mamdani, and they're running away from Ilhan Omar, because like in Great Britain, they're like, well, what if they issue a fatwa? Or they don't have to do it themselves. What if a cleric, remember, they have very powerful Muslim clerics who support them and back them. All you need is one Muslim cleric issues a fatwa, and my friend, you better be looking over your shoulder. Now, the Western Europeans privately admit they're now frightened. They're frightened. This is an angry, hostile, radical, fanatical, militant, very violent minority that is growing and growing. And let me make one last point. I want you to look at the birth rates of the Somalis in Minneapolis or in Portland, Maine. I don't care. Take your pick. The average American is lucky to have two children per family. Okay, barely replacement levels. Look at them. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 kids. I mean, their women are constantly pregnant. That's another reason why they're sucking off the teat of welfare. They can claim one child after another, after another, after another. So it's not just that you brought in a minority that doesn't want to assimilate, but you've brought in a minority that doesn't want to many of them, not all, but many of them don't want to assimilate. But demography is destiny. The European birth rate has collapsed. It's one child per family. One. The Muslim birth rate is something like 7 or 8 children per family. Well, 7 to 1, 8 to 1. You do this over a decade or two, it's over. And the Muslims openly saying it, we are going to outbreed you. In other words, you idiots, you let us in. So they're not here to assimilate. They're here to conquer. And we are fools, and this is the poison pill of multiculturalism. It's our heroin, okay? It's what we've been injecting ourselves with that is numbing our senses and turning us into like blind, deaf, and stupid. Not all cultures are equal. That's a lie. Some cultures are superior to others, way superior to others. And you can call me every name in the book. I don't care. Truth is truth is truth. Facts are facts are facts. And Western civilization, and American civilization in particular, is one of the most superior in the history of the world. I'm not saying we're superior as a people. Of course not. But what country has achieved what the United States has in such a short period of time? We're only entering our 250th birthday this year. Compared to most countries in the world, we're infants. Look at what we've achieved. Look at what we've accomplished. That's why the whole world wants to come here. Hello? So not all cultures are the same. They're not. And they're not equal. They're not. And moreover, there are some religions and there are some cultures that do not assimilate and do not want to assimilate, whether it's with America or Europe or Western civilization. Period. Full stop. They're incapable of it. They don't want to. They're not interested. They're playing us for fools. So we still have time. We're not Britain. We're not France. I don't know what the Europeans are going to do. I can tell you this. Central and Eastern Europe, there's a huge schism. Because of the history of Central and Eastern Europe, they had a real direct experience with Islam. Ask the Greeks. Ask the Greeks. Ask the Poles. Ask the Serbs. Ask the Croatians. Ask the Czechs. Ask the Hungarians. Ask them what their history with Islam has been. They don't allow Muslim immigration. Full stop. Period. As Poland's leaders have said again and again, we don't have a terrorism problem because we don't admit a single Muslim. That's it. Over. So Central and Eastern Europe is saying, "Niet." Western Europe is overrun. And now they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. Now, we're not Western Europe yet, but we're getting there. And that's why I always say this: never run from the truth. Not to quote a cliche, but it is true. The truth will always set you free. Always. So rather than bury our heads in the sand or tell ourselves lies, okay, that we're all equal, everybody wants to assimilate, everybody wants to come to the United States to be good and to contribute, blah, 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 okay? Let's finally open our eyes and confront reality, because once you do that, you can solve the problem. If I'm sick, tell me I'm sick so I can get better. Don't pretend I'm not sick. Because if you tell me I'm sick and there's still time, I can get better. I can save myself. Truth is always the most important thing. We have time. We still have time. But we have to confront this now. What you're seeing with Ilhan Omar is just a taste of what Western Europeans have on a daily basis. Their leaders are always threatened by these radical Muslims. They're always being told, we'll kill you, we'll execute you. They're always using violence or the threat of violence to browbeat them and to have them bow down to them. It is unacceptable to call for the execution and murder of the President of the United States. And I'm not going to take it from anybody, never mind this fraud from Somalia. Now, it's time for Pam Bondi to get off her ass and get out of the Fox News green room and start arresting people, starting with her. As I thought Raymond said it very well, start making an example out of them. Things will change and things will die down. They will stop, but you've got to start making example out of these people. Now, I just want to read this one point from Mark, and then I'm going to go to the phone lines. This was Mark from Messenger, and it's so true. It's not even funny. Jeff, please, I hope you read this. Donald Trump was arrested, booked, and fingerprinted for absolutely nothing. A former president of the United States and now the current president. Yet this fraud, this witch, Ilhan Omar, hasn't been arrested, booked, and fingerprinted? What is Pam Bondi afraid of? What is she afraid of? You're right, Mark. What is she afraid of? 617-266-6868 is the number. Bruce in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Bruce, and welcome. Bruce, how are you, my friend?
Jeff, I'm okay. I tried to get on yesterday, but I was...
What you want to say, and I promise I'll give you all the time in the world. Buddy, I got to ask you, say, God forbid, we have a nuclear war, okay? And you're a survivor. You're the last survivor. You're on an island. The fate of the human race now rests in your hands. There's only one other woman that survived. Ilhan Omar. If she was the last woman left on planet Earth, for the sake of the survival of the human species, would you procreate with her?
Are you kidding me, Jeff? I feed her to the sharks, and they wouldn't even eat her.
Well, there goes humanity, Bruce. But at least you have standards, my friend. Bruce, buddy, go ahead. What's on your mind?
I've had a tough week, Jeff. My friend's funeral was on Tuesday from the boat that sank in Gloucester.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm very sorry to hear that.
The wake was Monday. There was millions of people there. It was just so sad. And Gussie Sanfilippo, rest in peace. But this woman, just for the fact that she's threatening the life of the President of the United States, I'm telling you right now, I should be in there grabbing her and her husband / brother, whatever they are, and anybody that, I mean, come on, Jeff. If anybody did that to Obama, they'd be in jail. I can't even go into the depths. I'm just so overcome with my loss of my friend, and we got this person trying to take away the only person that's done anything for this country since I can't tell you when.
And Bruce, look, just to reinforce what you're saying, and again, I'm really sorry for your loss, Bruce. I'm very sorry for the loss of your friend. Look, forget the fact that she made her money illegitimately. She's corrupt to the bone. Okay, just let that go. You come from a refugee camp, one of the poorest third world countries in the world. And by the way, the camp that she was in was filthy. Okay, it was a filthy, dirty camp. It's a horrible camp. And you come to the United States, and in your own lifetime, as a quote-unquote refugee, and I'm putting that in air quotes, you become not only a member of Congress, but you and your husband, forget the fact that they stole the money, just let that go, are now worth over $14 million. Okay, you're a multi-millionaire. Honest to God, wouldn't at least you'd say thank you? Really, wouldn't you be like kissing the ground? Kissing the flag? Like, the one thing you would say is, no, hey, boy, America's been good to me. Hey, whoa, hey, don't you dare say a bad word against the United States, right? Bruce, am I missing something? Instead, the country that has been so good to her, well, she stole from, but still, the country that has given her a lifestyle she couldn't imagine and saved her from God knows what would have happened to her. And by the way, had they known her real last name in that camp, she and her father would be dead. Because that's how many people her father killed. Okay, he was a wanted war criminal. Her father is a war criminal. And Bruce, she comes here, member of Congress, runs downtown Minneapolis like it's her own fiefdom, and is worth over 40 mil. And we're not good enough for her. I'm not kidding. Bruce, we're not good enough for her. She's superior. She's better to us. She's better than us. She's superior to us. And she spits on our country and spits on our flag and spits on its people every single day. Bruce, final word to you.
What kind of person does that? Only a treasonous person. This is our country, not hers. She doesn't need to be here anymore. Get her the hell out. She steals from everybody. She promotes Islamic terrorism. This is not, talk about Black Hawk Down. How about America down? The whole country's going to go down with people like this. If they don't love our country and love our flag, they shouldn't be here. Get Amen. The hell out.
Amen. Get the hell out. Amen. Bruce, again, my condolences on the loss of your friend, and please know that you and your friend are in my thoughts and prayers. And thank you, because you're saying what needs to be said. God bless you, Bruce. 6-1. Again, am I missing something? You want to talk about an ingrate? I'm sorry, she's swine. This woman is swine. So, you know what? Finally, there's a spotlight being put on her. Finally. And I hope they arrest her, and I hope they deport her ass right back to Somalia. Joining me now is William Kelly Jr. He is obviously from Kelly Financial Services. And as you know, normally it's his mother who comes on, Kelly, to talk about the latest that's coming from Kelly Financial Services. Today, however, he's going to talk about his new book, Only the Good Invest Young. William, why did you feel compelled to write the book?
Good morning, Jeff. I wrote Only the Good Invest Young because I kept seeing people my age who genuinely wanted to make smart financial decisions, but didn't always know where to start or which questions even mattered. This book isn't about hype or shortcuts. It's about understanding how investing really works over time, how compounding, taxes, debt, and behavior all shape long-term outcomes. I also included perspectives from people I respect, mentors, professionals, and leaders who shared lessons they'd wish they'd learned earlier in life. And Jeff, you've spent years helping people think more clearly through your work and your voice here on radio. And I want to be clear, This isn't about telling anyone what to do. Investing always involves risks, and like any investment, you can lose principal. My goal was simply to help people think more clearly, ask better questions, and build awareness before mistakes become expensive. If you're early in your investing journey, or helping someone who is, and you like a complimentary copy of Only the Good Invest Young, you can contact us here at Kelly Financial. Jeff, we'll continue this conversation tomorrow morning on Safe Money Strategies Radio at 9 a.m. Jeff, have a great weekend, and my best to the family.
Thank you, William Kelly. All the best to you and everyone at Kelly Financial. To get a free copy of William Kelly's book, and I urge all of you, if you can, do get it. Call now, 888-800-1881, 888-800-1881, or you can actually email Kelly herself personally, kelly@kellyfinancial.org. That's kelly@kellyfinancial.org. I am so proud of him. You have no idea how proud I am of William Kelly Jr. Anyway, congratulations again, William, on your book. Okay, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, before I go back to the phone lines, I want to read to you a very, very important, frankly, a brilliant text. And it's from 781. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. Everything that this texter is saying is 1,000% accurate. And so please, you got to listen to this, because this is where the media here is not covering what's happening in Britain, but this could be our future if we're not careful. Jeff, it's far worse in Western Europe, and particularly in the United Kingdom, than you have portrayed. London, the city of Shakespeare, is now majority non-white. Only 30% of London's population now is UK-born white British citizens. The Muslim rape gangs that you were talking about are actually still continuing. And worse than nothing happening, those who try to show the people how the police do nothing, how the media lie, and the politicians aid and abet these Muslim savages, are themselves subject to arrest and prosecution. The 1984-esque social media laws they have in Great Britain now have hundreds of people going to jail every week. Their crime? Being critical of the Muslim invasion and takeover of Great Britain. Look at what the British government has done to Tommy Robinson for simply trying to let his neighbors know what is happening in these Muslim enclaves in the United Kingdom. If you want a glimpse of life here in 30 years, just look at London now. Bingo. Bingo. And that's why we've got to seal the borders, and we've got to be very careful of who we let into our country and who we don't let into our country. And yes, it's time to start deporting every single illegal alien, and especially the Somali illegals in Minneapolis or in Maine or wherever they may be. Out. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Michael in Saugus. Thanks for holding, Michael, and welcome.
Jeff, thank you for taking my telephone call. If anything happens to our wonderful Donald J. Trump, I will go to the streets. I don't know what I'll do, what I'll say, but I will not be a happy person. I blame the Republicans for this. The Bondis, the Jim Jordans, the Ted Cruzes, they're sitting back and just not doing anything. You only have a handful of good Republicans that are willing to fight. The rest of them just stand down and as weak as water.
Mike, I have to tell you, I not only do I agree with you, I don't think the Democrats understand the fire that they're playing with. It's not a threat. I'm just stating a fact. There are tens and tens of millions of Americans that feel and think exactly like you, Michael. Exactly. They start calling for the president's head. They start with this: execute him, assassinate him, murder him. And God forbid they succeed. Unlike in Butler and at that golf course in Florida. They have no idea what the reaction is going to be from MAGA, from the majority of the American people. They have no idea. Because, you see, this is their fundamental flaw, Michael. And I want to give you the last word. They riot with impunity. They shoot at ICE officers with impunity. They attack them, assault them. They commit crime after crime, and they're never held accountable. And so in their crazy, warped mind, because they keep getting away with everything over and over and over and over again, they think, well, if somebody offs off Donald Trump, it'll be like when we offed off Charlie Kirk. Oh, yeah, Kuhner will yell and holler. People will go and get angry on social media. But nothing's going to happen. I mean, the guy who maybe is the executioner, the assassin, like Tyler Robinson, may end up going to jail for the rest of his life. But outside of that, they'll take it. Like they've always taken it. No. I'm telling you, Michael, they're wrong. This is a fatal miscalculation on their part. And so I think what's really clouding their judgment, and they're making a fundamental miscalculation, an historic miscalculation, is they think just because they get away with every other crime, they would get away with this crime. And I think this time the American people will take it to the streets. What say you, Michael?
I agree with you 1,000%, Jeff. They underestimate MAGA and the people that have supported Donald Trump since 2015. We will go to the streets, and I don't know what we're going to do, but you're going to have an awful lot of very unhappy people because this man is never been treated like any other president.
And that shows you he's a threat to the system. You can tell. Look, again, just look at the media and look at the Democrats. Who do they hate and vilify? And that shows you who they fear. They hate, obviously, and vilify Trump. They hate and vilify J.D. Vance. They hate and vilify Kristi Noem. In other words, she's giving, a lot of rope to ICE to go after there and start deporting illegal aliens. So they vilify Tom Homan. They go after Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They can't stand Tulsi Gabbard. They're gunning for her head. But notice, they don't vilify Kash Patel. And the big one, they don't vilify Pam Bondi. Have you noticed that? I mean, they make fun of her a little bit here and there. I'm not saying that, that they just don't touch her or don't criticize her. But for the most part, they don't vilify and demonize her. Why? Because she's toothless. She's feckless. So they're going after Trump like they've never gone after any other president. Because this is the first man since Reagan who now says, tear down this wall. Except then it was the Berlin Wall and communism. Trump is saying, tear down the wall here. The wall of the deep state, the wall of the democratic regime, the wall of the swamp. Wow. I'm like, okay, geez, I had no idea. I mean, I know tomorrow's Valentine's Day, obviously, but it's Friday the 13th. I think I'm going to watch a horror movie if I have a chance later tonight. But anyway, 9:47 now on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. I got to tell you, Ilhan Omar would be a perfect villain in a horror movie. Michael Myers, Jason, whatever, Elon, or just Omar. You know what I mean? And some people did something, and then, oh no, there she is with a knife. Really? I mean, she'd be the perfect female villain in a horror movie. 617-266-6868. John in Saugus. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff, for taking my call. I think we're prolonging the inevitable because there's no reason, if you look back at history, when the Ottoman Empire overtook Europe, the only one that saved it was the Blessed Mother. Only thing that can save us, Jeff, is faith, okay? Men cannot solve our problems because the people in this country are too weak. These Democrats are strong because they're evil. And if we don't fight that evil with the evil that they're fighting with us under any conditions, we have to fight to win, not to fight to survive. We want to win, not just survive. Thank you very much for this call, Jeff.
Thank you very much, John. And look, you know, I always say this. Never forget the hand of God. Never, throughout history, there's always the hand of God. And so, you know, I'm hoping and I'm praying and I believe that if enough Americans wake up, if the spirit of 1776 and the spirit of the founding fathers still lives within us, and I believe they do, and with God's guidance, I think we will wake up and I think we will save our country. I'm not, you know, I haven't changed my mind. And I believe Butler was the hand of God. I believe it saved Donald Trump to win. And, you know, everybody thinks not everything is going to be solved in the Trump presidency. I really want to stress this to everybody. That's why J.D. Vance, to me, is the prince. Trump is now obviously the king. He's the president. But who's going to be the heir? I believe the heir is J.D. And if you look at, 4 years of Trump and then 8 years of J.D., in other words, of real America First patriotic rule, America First MAGA rule, we will save our country. So please, this is not going to be done in one presidency or in 2 years of a presidency. It took us a long time to get into this mess. It's going to take us time to get out of this mess. But there's no question, under Trump, the country is rising again. The country's getting off its feet again. The country is coming back. 617-266-6868. Okay, let's go to Maestro Mike. Rob in Maine. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome. Rob, do we have you? All right, let's see if we can reconnect with Rob. Tony in Marlboro. Thanks for holding, Tony, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. I know it's easy to blame Omar and all these things that you're saying are true. It's not her fault. It's the fools that voted for her, and it's not all Somalis. There's plenty of regular, whoever you want to call them, regular Americans voting for her. Is it Mandami's fault? No. How many Jewish people in New York City voted for Mandami? Are you kidding me? You blame Biden for being a fool, an old fool. No, it's the people that voted for Biden. It's not. They're just reaping the benefits of these fools in America that are putting them in power, and now they're reaping the benefits of these idiots. I don't blame Omar. She's like, wow, you guys gave me the golden key to the city. And now here we go. I mean, and then she's going to be voted back in. She'll win it. Like, what's going on with these people that live there and are voting for them?
Oh, it's
I don't get it.
No, Tony, look, I got to say that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. In fact, if you look at Minneapolis, I wanted to get into white women, single white women, unmarried white women. There's a brilliant piece. I just didn't have a chance to get to it today. I promise I will. Why are so many of these activists and rioters and agitators suddenly now, many of them, single or unmarried women? Why, right? But they're mostly white women. So anyway, but the reason why I mentioned that is Minneapolis is a majority white city. Chicago isn't, LA isn't, Houston isn't, New York isn't, many cities are not. they're, majority non-white. But Minneapolis, you're right. It's not just Somalis, far from it. Minneapolis is 60% white. You look at places like Seattle, it's almost 70% white. Portland, over 70% white. So, who's voting for Ilhan Omar? Yes, she's got a core base of support in the Somali community, no question. But, most of her supporters, at least the majority, are white radicals. They're white radical Democrats. So you're completely right. It's, you're right. It's what kind of a lunatic would vote for an Ilhan Omar or a Mamdani or a Joe Biden? Tony, what's your theory, in all seriousness? Why are so many people either stupid, ignorant, gullible, whatever it may be, that they're, to vote? I'm not talking a center-left Democrat, little higher taxes, more regulation, whatever. I'm talking hardcore, America-hating, Jew-hating, Christian-hating, Marxist communist. Why are so many Democrats voting for lunatics like Omar and Mamdani? What's your theory?
I have no idea. I was on vacation in Barbados, and I was sitting next to a family from Minnesota. And nice family. Everything looked just a normal-looking family, and it was soon after she was elected in. And I asked the mom, the woman there, exactly that question because I have no clue. And her answer was, well, we wanted some change. Well, guess what? You got it.
That was her answer? We wanted some change?
Yeah. Yeah, and she was very sheepish when she answered. Like, she kind of wasn't really positive. And, I was like, what? Everyone knows, everyone knew as soon as she took office, what her stand. She's not surprising anybody.
Yeah, she's not subtle. Well, you're right. She's not hiding her politics. That's for sure. Wow. Tony, that's a great call. What a way to end the show. I mean, you want to talk about putting a bow on the show. That's just so we wanted a change. So you vote Ilhan Omar?